Okay, so guys, we're back again, and what we aim to do today is to show you the functionalities in both P6 and Astar. We will do a comparison to basically give you a general understanding of the differences between P6 and Astar, and also how to do the basic functions in P6 and its corresponding equivalents in Asta. So it will give you an idea of obviously using P6 in terms of the more complex programs and bigger organizations, organizations like the aerospace, defense, highways, bridges, banking, the lot. What P6 does is it's a robust system that literally allows you to plan all of a company's projects from inception to completion. It gives you so many different options in terms of the cost accounts, the costings, etc. So it really does, drive the whole idea of planning from a totally different perspective. Whereas in Asta Power Project, it's very construction focused. It is quite a powerful tool, but it's geared towards construction. It's geared towards a visual management of programs. But ideally, for us, more experienced planners, learning on P6 and the functionality of P6 obviously does a lot more. It gives you a lot more value, in terms of the planning as a discipline, as science, etc. So it's easier to, kind of drive through a lot of the functions that pertain to particular complex projects, which Asta Power projects may not necessarily be able to do. So a lot of the best practice, the DCMA planning best practice, a lot of those functionalities were developed off of Primavera P6 as opposed to Asta Power projects. All right, so I'll get on with the presentation, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so we will start with Primavera P6. Basically, I've got a project open, and this project, here it is. It's got all the WBSs populated, contract administration, pre-construction submittals, approvals. It basically runs through the inception phase, the design phase, development phase, the execution phase, procurement, construction, closeout. So the pre-construction, construction, post-construction, which is a closeout handover. All right. So we'll start with trying to create an actual program in Primavera P6. Let's just give you, okay, we haven't got it up there. There is. Alright, so what I'll do, let me switch it around and we'll do the P6 on one side and the Aster on the other. So, because what we've got is the full screens and not necessarily, okay, so here we are. So let's adjust it enough to have what we're after. Hold on 1 second. Bear with us a second. Okay, so the reason why I had to do that, because we're recording two screens at the same time, I've had to extend this, or well, basically minimize it and extend it, just so we can have a look at all the command icons to the left hand side of the project window, basically. So here we have the spreadsheet, and on the spreadsheet it has, the windows for activity. So this is now the activity spreadsheet window. This location here is the Gantt chart or bar chart In P6 it's called the Gantt chart, in Asta it's called the bar chart. So I'll just drag it through here so you can see exactly what it is we're talking about. Okay, so over here we have the spreadsheet, or sorry, the Gantt chart or bar chart. P6 is called Gantt chart, in Asta Power Projects bar chart. So I'll show you the equivalent in Asta Power Projects. Okay, so we've got a blank. So this location here in Asta Power Projects, we haven't got any projects open, but what I will do is I'll leave this open and open another one just so you can get an idea what it is we're on about. Alright, so let's get this all the way down. Let's click on more, let's go that far open, new, control, save as, that will give me the location, that's the way we had all of those. There's our Stratford program, okay, we had a Stratford program somewhere here. That's our desktop, hopefully we can find them. It's here. Documents. There we are. So we look for S. Still can't find it. Programmer after is Okay, so what we could do is we'll open up a random project. And this is what happens. We're importing a Primavera P6 project into Asta. Usually when you import it in, it asks you, you know, do you want to convert, use a template? I'd usually go for so it's construction template, and you click OK. What it does, it would convert from the XCL file into the PPP file, so you're able to view Primavera P6 programs within the Asta Power project. So whilst it loads, we'll go straight into P6 and create a new project. Okay, so the icons on the left are all of the commands for creation. Okay, so from the project to resources to WBSs to resource assignments to activities, basically at the bottom left, these icons here deal with the different types of project windows that you have. So on here we've got the activities window, so we can view all of the activities within the program. Right, so up here, just remember, it's the activities window for the spreadsheet, so it's the spreadsheet activity window. So if we click on the WBS icon, which is the blue squares, that would open up the spreadsheet that contains the WBSs for the project. Okay, so what you do is just adjust it so you can view it however it suits the user. Okay, and this just literally gives you the WBS codes of how the arrangement, so basically the indentations, so 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and that would follow suit in relation to the way the WBSs are arranged. If you notice, it goes through pre-construction, residence, communication, monthly. So if you go back to the activities window, those WBSs follow suit. So however they're arranged in the WBS spreadsheet window is how they will be arranged when you view them from the activities window. The only difference between WBS window and activities window is the activities window has everything. It has both the project, it has all the WBSs, and it also shows the activities, right? So with this columns here, ideally what you can do is whatever columns you have showing here, you can choose to import other columns to view project information in and around this location here. So a way to do it would be to go to your, hold on a second, I don't think we have that there. It's HDR, the top row, it's disappeared where we have all of the, yeah, it's disappeared. Okay, what I'll do, I'll switch windows between okay, so I'll put this here and I'll put the Power projects up here. So we've got all the ribbons, and then in P6 we want these ribbons here. 1 second, I just, yeah, here we are. So what we haven't got is our ribbons up top. We need to find those ribbons because they are very essential to our video. What I have to do is move these down to see if it will give us back our windows. We can move it towards this location here, move that there, move this as well, move that there. So we have all of these here, but my concern now is that we haven't got our ribbon that has all of the functionality. So what we'll do, we'll close P6 and come back into it. Hopefully when we do that, we'll have that back in. You see, these problems can occur. What you need to do is know exactly how to. So whilst that loads, we'll come back to this program. As you can see, this is one of the more complex programs that you would ever see. It's a program that's got 60,000 activities, and it's for a museum located in Kuwait called the Sheikh Abdullah Al Salim Cultural Center, which is what that means, SAASCC fit out, general requirement. So I'll just close this up. It's quite a big program, so it will take a bit of time to load. As I said, 60,000 activities. It won't do so quickly, so to speak. As you can tell, all of the dependencies, all these logic links, this gives you a rough idea of how complex this program is just by looking at all the logic links. Lots of dependencies, lots of interdependencies between activities, phases, etc. So you can understand the 60,000 activity program would have so many dependencies, predecessors, successors. The logic for such a program has to drive the program, because if you don't let the logic drive the program, what happens is you end up obviously with issues, not knowing where, you know, you have delays or activities out of sequence, etc. You won't know that. But if you build it with that in mind, that logic should drive the program, you'll be able to catch, obviously, if you know that through the 4 different phases, the technical development, the shop drawings phase, the fabrication phase, the installation phase. All the activities have a predecessor that runs through from technical development to the shop drawing phase, to the procurement phase, to the fabrication phase, to the installation phase, and it follows through. So if you have any issues with the dependencies, interdependencies, you're able to catch those issues and know where they. So let's get a reload P6 again. Okay, so you see it's a massive program. What I'll do, I'll probably just go to a smaller program and open that, because it seems like this is really, you know.
Yeah, I think it's UK program.
Yeah, something smaller, you know, something that's less complex for you guys. Okay, something that's less complex. Okay, so here we are. Where is our Stratford program? Or they will close this SAX project, and we'll probably do another video of that particular one some other time. Okay, so we get a bit more memory space, we'll close that. No, we don't wish to save any changes. So we've got this open. Whilst we wait for Primavera P6 to open, we'll just talk you through the functions in Astar. Literally to the left hand side we've got the project view, which contains all of the different attributes that the project can have. Here we have the WBSs lined down all the way. If we just close it, it's exactly the same as this location here, which is the spreadsheet. So this just shows you what's on the spreadsheet. This shows you it from a project view. So these are all the attributes that the projects can have, the permanent resources, consumables. All of these you would have defined within the Library Explorer, which currently we can't see because the screen keeps. Okay, so here we are. This is the Library Explorer up here, this button here, Open Library Explorer. And here you can define all of the attributes for your given project within this window. Let's just expand this. The computers find it really hard to okay, so what we might have to do is reduce the screen quality. Control panel. still can't see it, so delete the changes and try and reduce it further. Let's see what it does. Still doesn't give us that we're after, so revert back, because in essence what we're trying to do is make sure that you're able to see the whole screen, because we're going to struggle without the ribbons up top. So the only other option that I can see is to select it and then probably drag it, but the dragging is going to probably take us a bit to do that. This is probably the best option that we have. Hopefully you guys are able to see off the back of this. Okay, so click OK. Alright, do the changes. We close out, and here we are. Okay, so right, so now that we've got P6 open, you can see here the main menu. We click that right up here, and we have that back. Okay, so we're good to go. Now we've got two projects open within the view. We've got the Stratford project open, and in P6 we've got the Bolognaci project open. So ideally what I want to do is show you the comparisons between the two of how to build a program. So with P6 we look to the left hand side icons. This is where you have all of the commands for making or starting to make your projects. Now if you remember through the lessons that we discussed, usually the hierarchy of the process flow that you should follow is the project, and then the WBS creations, and then the activity creations, then the resources creations, then the cost creations. We'll follow that same sequence between the two software tools, and hopefully you'll see the differences between the two. So we start with trying to create a project. To the left hand side the wizard comes on, and this basically helps you to create your project with assistance, and it gives you options on what to select, where to place your project within the enterprise project structure, which in essence is this here. You click on this if you wanted to place it. It's like a filing system, as I always say. This contains all of the initiatives, all of the projects that the company is currently performing right now, and all you want to do is just select what attribute or what type of project that you're creating. Is it a product development project? Is it an energy project? Is it a manufacturing project? Engineering and construction? You know, all of these things here. You literally just want to place it under, say for instance, the information technology project. So as soon as you come into within the software, you're able to pick out where exactly you've located your program within all of your enterprise projects that you perform. Alright, so for this one here, we'll say it's an engineering and construction project, and we click plus to the right hand side, and what the wizard does is it adds our new project that we're creating to the enterprise project structure under the engineering and construction attributes of our company, basically the engineering and construction sub function. Yeah. So you press next, and what it says, it gives you a project name. Project here, we'll give it a project ID of STR_001, and then you give the project a name. Say for instance, we could call it Eagle Development. Alright, and the wizard helps you through. You press the next, and the wizard asks you project start and end dates. We'll say that the project is set to start within the year. So if we say, okay, we'll go 2018, which is where we are currently now, would say April 2018, we'll say the 16th. Usually the projects would usually start on Mondays, okay? And you do not put anything in that you must finish by space, because you will be adding a constraints to your program, which ideally is bad practice. Okay, you click on next, it takes you through to the responsible manager, and obviously we have these attributes already within the program where you're able to assign a responsible manager to the actual project. These are all predefined within the software. You can also add your own organizational breakdown structure names. So basically this is just enterprise, manufacturing, energy, whoever the responsible person or department is that's going to perform it. You come here, you click it. So let's just say this is going to be engineering and construction. As you can see, is what you see there, which we already had defined, which is the E&C. Okay, so we click next, and then it comes to standard rate. Here you can select the assignment rate types, whether it's a standard rate or whether you could do price per unit or internal specific internal rate, which is predefined. We'll leave it for clarity on the standard rate. You click next, and congratulations, you've created a new project. You finish that, and then what we want to do now is, we're still in the same spreadsheet window for the activities of the previous project. We want to go now and select our new project that we've created, and in order to do that, you come to the left hand side of the icons and you click on projects. Alright, all you have to do is just hover over the left commands, and it will highlight saying projects where the file is. You click on it and it opens the project spreadsheet, right? And this is the enterprise project structure for all of the projects as we saw prior. Okay, if you want to shorten it all you do is right click and you zoom down to collapse to how many levels, EPS ID levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we say collapse it to number 2 and we click on apply, you see what it does, and click OK. It literally just closes up all of the different subs, EPS that we have. Okay, so if you click on that one, it houses all of the programs within. So basically, in essence, it's like the WBS for all the projects within the company. This is what the EPS is. Okay, you close that, and literally you can select through where you want to go and look for the project that we've just created. Ideally, you scroll back up to engineering and construction, the E&C project ID, click on that, and we look for the projects that we just created, which we called Eagle Development right there, right? And the project code ID that we inputted with str_001. Now you've highlighted it, right click, you go to open project, so whilst that loads up, we'll go over to the Asta Power projects and do the equivalent. Now with Asta, it's a bit more simplified. You click on the file ribbon, and here, just like Microsoft Word, Microsoft Projects, Excel, etc., has the same sort of user interface window. If you were to open up an existing project, you go to open, it will bring up the dialog box that has the files where you have previous projects you've stored or saved within that particular file or folder. You click that project and you create. But what we want to do is start afresh, so we'll create a brand new project. You scroll down to new, you click on new, and what Asta does is it gives you available templates. It would say new from existing, construction template, engineering template, housing template, MSP template, P6 template, services template, tutorial template. We want to go for the construction template because the project that we're trying to create is a construction project. So we'll click on construction template, and we do the exact same thing that we did in P6. We'll call the project the Eagle Development. Alright, we copy that, right click, and you paste it in there, And you say who the project is for. You could say the project is for the Ministry of Defense, and the project by SSJ Project Solutions. Alright, you click the start date of the project. We will start the project in 2018, April the 16th. And we create the project. Now, whilst we wait, Asta's literally just done it. Within a matter of a couple of clicks, it's clicked through and we've created a blank project. If you look to the left hand side in the project view in Asta, we have no WBSs created yet, but we have all of these attributes that are blank because what we've selected is the construction template. So all of these attributes come with the construction template. Alright, so if you click the crane, obviously you use cranes on site, design resources, architects, landscape architects, services engineers, structural engineers. You have all of these preset within the construction within the construction template. So if we scroll down, it has all of the attributes that you require for a construction project already. Progress updating, you click on it, it gives you activity count, completions, etc. We won't go too far into these. We'll come through and explain those later, obviously when we build the program. We scroll down to the WBS, and here you have the Eagle development, and what it does, it gives you a template construction WBS, which is the procurement, then the construction, and then the services and fit outs. Alright, so here we have prelims, which should be right up here before the procurement. So within the construction, it gives you the substructure, superstructure, envelope, internals, services and finishes, and the external works, right? But ideally I wouldn't worry too much about this, because if you are to become an astute planner, you shouldn't really need that. But if you do need help, you can always go to the WBSs just to know the phasing in construction. Substructure, so if you clicked on substructure, you could create your activities and highlight this WBS and place it over, and all of the activities within this WBS will be substructure. Ideally, it's a bit messy. I'd rather you don't do that. Okay, I'll show you how to create your own WBSs so you're able to track and, you know, place activities where they should be. Alright, so we've created the project now, and what we want to do is we will go through the process of creating WBSs within Asta and WBSs within P6. So for now, we'll park the Asta aside and move back into P6. So in P6 here, we've created the project. Here you can see the Eagle developments. We're in the activity spreadsheet window, but we've got no activities, right? So you scroll back to the left hand side and you select the WBSs. You click on it so you can show the WBS window. So remember the hierarchy that I said? You start with creating the project, then you populate your WBSs, and then the activities. So we go to the WBS, we click on the WBS window, and it brings up the WBS code that we created, ST_W01, Eagle development, and start date 16th of April. Okay, now all of these columns that you see open, if you wanted to add any further columns to suit you and you wanted to have a look at more information, all you do is hover over the columns and then you right click and it gives you the options. You scroll down to columns, and if you wanted to view the responsible manager or the dates or projects or customize, we click on customize so we can select what it is that we want to view on the columns. So within this location here, it says the available columns and the selected options. As you can see now, you've got the selected options: WBS code, WBS code, WBS name, start and finish, start and finish. So these are all the options that you have on view within the spreadsheet. So if you click to the left, what you want to do is this summarizes all of the different columns that you can actually open within the window. But what you want to do is, rather than go through them one by one, you can have all of them listed out. So basically, if you wanted dates, you can click on that. Let me just extend the window slightly. You can click on that and it will show you all of the potential columns that you can view for dates, under dates. But if you know exactly what it is that you're working with for now, you could easily just say available options, click on it, and then scroll down to group and sort. Here you have it by category. You want it to be listed without the categories. So here you would have every single one from A to Z, right? So whatever it is you're looking for that you want to view, you know A to Z, you could scroll through and find it and click it and it will move over. So say for instance now I wanted to see the current budget. I'll click on the current budget icon and I will move it to the right selected options and it comes straight in there, right? So if you wanted to move it down just so it shows in the same sequence or order that it has in the selected options, you just come to these arrows up and down and you move it as per what you prefer to see. Okay, so we click apply, and as soon as you've done that you click OK, and as soon as we did that it showed the current budget right there. Okay, so what we want to do now is the same way we've looked at within Astapower projects. We've got the WBSs already created as a template for construction, right? It's got procurement, construction, prelims. Okay, but we'll come to P6 and do the exact same thing. You add a WBS, always highlight. This is the project file itself. Always highlight and then create WBSs. Now you can see that it's indented this new creation of a WBS that we've done, and if you look at the hierarchy it says 0001. If you look at the sub WBS it says 001.1. If we created another one, another WBS, right under that it goes to 2, but ideally we don't want it to go to 2, so what we will do is we'll move it to the bottom and you can see it comes up with what? 00.1, 00.2. Why? Because under the STR 001 we filed it so it indents accurately, just like how if you were doing a dissertation on Microsoft Word and you wanted to have subheadings and subheadings. That's the same principle here, where you have the sub, this is the main heading and this represents the subheadings. Okay, so we'll create we have 5 phases that we're going to create for the WBSs. Alright, so we've got the first, second, we create 2 others. Okay, and then we just arrange them. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we scroll up. 1. Scroll up. And to the right you have all of the commands for either moving stuff, adding stuff, deleting stuff. You can just click on this little button here if you want to add and remove tabs for the command tabs. You want it to dissolve, you want it to fill down, select all, spell check, all of these. Okay, so if you click on that, all of the buttons that you might want to put in there: private documents, public documents, doc issue, discuss issue, monitor selected thresholds. Private documents, we put that in there because I'll show you what to do with that. Anyway, so we've created that. We move these back up. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we've got them created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for construction, you will have, what's the first phase that you think you would have within a construction program? So if we're going to start at tender stage.
At tender, okay, so concept, pre-initiation.
Pre-initiation. Okay, that pre-initiation we'll call it maybe the pre-construction state phase. Okay, okay, and then under the pre-construction phase you could have the design phase. Okay, so design and engineering. Okay, and then after the design and engineering phase, you have the development phase, and that development phase is all the submittals, approvals of design drawings, and then it goes straight to the procurement phase. So after design will be the procurement phase.
And this is from tender, right?
This is from tender.
Tender.
Okay. So it could easily be from tender, or the actual outfit or organization that's going to perform the actual project. They will follow this sequence as well. Okay, so this is just hypothetical.
Right.
All right. So procurement phase, and then we could have the manufacturing phase, which will be part of the procurement phase. So depending on whether your program or your project requires manufacturing and also shipping. If there are long lead items, you could have a shipping phase. Say for instance, you are building a project remotely in Saudi Arabia or in Kuwait, etc. You would do that manufacturing. Say the manufacturing was off-site, and then it'd have to be delivered, so you'd have a shipping phase as well. So this is just hypothetical. Okay, so we've got shipping, and then what we do is we come back as we're needing more WBSs, and just watch what I've done. Basically, we add another 3 actually. Okay, and what we do, we move them down. Okay, do the same thing again. Move them down. Okay, so manufacturing, shipping, and then after shipping we have installation. Yeah. Alright, but that is for a particular type of WBS. What we're doing is, because we're doing the construction within the UK, we may not necessarily follow this. So you see the differences between this is a project for, say for instance, a project that is being remotely done, but you, the planner, is based in the UK, and you fly over to, say for instance, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, etc., and that's where the project is. So you can actually remotely project manage, but making sure that you have a clear and precise process flow of how the work is going to be done. Okay, so installation, and then this is probably the testing and commissioning. And then close out. Okay, so now what we've done is we've created everything. Now bear in mind, yeah, that some of these, the procurement, manufacturing falls under procurement phase. Okay, so it will ideally be a sub WBS for procurement. All you do is come back to the command and the right button, and you indent it to that under the procurement phase. Shipping also falls under the procurement phase. You indent it and it goes to the top, but you want to move it down. Installation, that is installation. It doesn't have anything to do with the procurement phase. Now the testing and commissioning, it's a phase on its own, and then the closeout and handover phase by itself. Okay, so we've created all of these. Now pre-construction phase, design and engineering phase, procurement phase. We've missed out something in the design and engineering. Right, so we click on the design and engineering, we want the shop drawings. So the technical development of the actual drawings, which is the concept and feasibility phase, where you develop, you start to look at the concept of what it is you're about to build, the architecture of it, the design of it, the structural requirements, the mechanical requirements, the civils requirements, all of the different sub-packages that you require to build the actual building. So you're looking at all of the components, the materials, the type of materials that will suit the construction build itself. Looking at the best options, you know.
Wouldn't those be under pre-construction?
They will all, this phase is the pre-construction. Yeah. So the design and engineering phase is actually under the pre-construction phase, right? So
where's the actual build?
We'll get to it. What we're doing, we're going for a different type of project, okay? So design and engineering will go under procurement phase, okay? So we've shifted it to the right. Pre-construction, design and engineering, okay? Now under the design and engineering, we would have the development of the shop drawings or the drawings, submittals, approvals, okay? So we'll call it shop drawings. These words can be used interchangeably through different industries. Okay, so I'm just giving you examples of the different types. Okay, potentially. So we say shop drawings. So usually in the fit out, which is where you will be working, in the fit out, they do shop drawings. Shop drawings basically are the concept drawings and the construction drawings for the proposed build. Say for instance you're fitting out an office building, or you're fitting out a development, you're fitting out a museum, you're fitting out an industrial, industrial building. All of these will have shop drawings, basically highlighting the locations, the plan drawings of all of the different attributes of the actual build itself. Okay, and what I would do is I'd also take a break and then come back with some drawings that we can look at and use to build the actual build itself. Okay, so giving you a full explanation of how it's been done in both softwares. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll finish populating the WBSs and then continue from there. So shop drawings, procurement phase, we've done the shop drawings now. Now within the shop drawings we'll have shop drawing submittals, shop drawing approvals. Okay, so we click again, highlighting on this, and then as you can see the indent, it's 001.1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.2, 1.1. Basically it's just an indent on how it's filed. Okay, and I'll show you the relevance of that in a second. So shop drawings, and we say submittals, right? And we want approvals as well to be under shop drawings. So we just click back onto shop drawings and then highlight, right click and add, and then you have approvals. Okay, it's the same as Microsoft Word, just indentations based on your headings. That's just picture it as headings, and you want it to indent based on how you want to create your WBS's approvals. Okay, so we've created all of that, and we will go back into our activities window and you can see what we've created. So here we have the Eagle development. You click on that and it opens out all of your WBSs. Okay, so if you remember when I said the WBSs will show within the activities window, right? But what you haven't asked about is this particular layout. What you can do if you wanted to change the layout of how this looks, you scroll up to the view, you click on the view, and you come to the layouts, you scroll down to open layout. Would you like to save changes to this layout? Yes. Now P6 will give you a few different options of pre-set layouts. Okay, ideally my user admin, under this user admin, these are the two layouts that I use, right? You have got various layouts to select from. So classic EPS WBS layout, classic schedule layout. Let's go for classic schedule layout. We click apply and it has a set of preset views and columns. Alright, so we click apply. As soon as we do that, P6 loads up the pre-defaulted layouts for this classic schedule layout. Okay, we'll just give it a second to load up. Click on open. And here we have no activities showing, but we have the WBSs. Okay, so it's telling you obviously there are no activities, but it seems like we have a filter on. Yep, there you go. We have a filter on, hence why nothing was showing construction durations. You remove the filter, you click apply, scroll down, there will be other filters on, so it's all off now. You click apply, click OK. We still don't have any of them showing, which means schedule percent complete. That's because we have no activities showing at all for this, but we have the WBSs here. Yeah. Okay, so if we right click and we click add, this default classic schedule layout, all activities, it should be showing all activities, but it's not showing, so it seems like it's loading. Yeah, there you go. See that? But ideally what it should be showing you is the hierarchy of the WBSs, okay, within this. So we go back, we select a different layout, open layout. No, we don't want to save. We want, say for instance, activities, classic EPS WBS, classic schedule layout with line number. Click apply, and there you have it. Open. So this here immediately gives you the line item number, and it gives you this window here showing the activity IDs, but these, you don't have any activities created, so all you can see is the WBS codes. Okay, as you can tell, it looks a bit multicolored. You know, everything can be altered to suit the actual user. So if you look at these, it shows the WBS ID codes 0.1, 0.11, 0.112, etc. If you're one of those people who likes detail and you want to make sure that you're adding the activities into the right WBS codes, you can leave these there. All it is just a representation of the WBS codes and the WBS names, okay, in the same hierarchy. So if you want to leave it at that, you can. Ideally, I wouldn't, because I have a preference for the layouts that I've saved. Now, if you wanted to take these WBS codes off, so you just have the name of the WBSs, you scroll up to the ribbons at the top. You stop at group and sort by. Now, within group and sort by, you click on it, and it gives you all of these different options to control within the spreadsheet how the spreadsheet looks. Okay, so show group totals, grand totals, show summaries only, shrink vertical grouping band. What it means by vertical grouping bands means the way in which the length and breadth of the WBSs are. If you click on that and click apply, you see it shrunk them. If you remove that and you click apply, it increases the size. So that is what that does. Okay, so we go to show summaries only, we click on that, and this is in essence what you can do just to test out all the functionalities of P6. You click on show summaries only, you go to apply, you apply it, and it summarizes everything. If we move this over to the right, it now looks a lot better than it did before. So if we unclick it and click that, there you go. So the one activity that's already been created up here, it shows the activity. But if you click that, summaries only, that means you're summarizing without the activity. You're just looking at only the WBSs. So the activity is gone. Alright? So show grand totals. You click apply, and you see what it shows up there, total. So until you populate all of the WBSs, you can have all of these columns open. Activity step count, activity count, autocomplete actuals, critical, activity names. All these columns, literally, just for this particular view, we'll leave them on, but I will show you the relevant columns to pick for any project that you're building. Okay, so down here you can click on hide if empty, which means if any of these WBSs do not have any activities within them, say for instance you filtered the activities because you were looking for a particular WBS work package, and you wanted all the other work packages to disappear from the screen, you click on hide empty, and when you do that, you click apply, and you can see nothing in there. But literally what it should have done was hid the WBSs. Right, so click apply, click OK. If we go back to it, it's unclicked again. You see that? So it is weird, obviously, because it should have removed it, but I think it's because we've got totals. So we remove that, click on apply, click on that again, and there you have it. All of the WBSs without activities have disappeared, right? And why do you think the Eagle development still has one, and it says it has an activity count of 1?
Because it's the overall.
Because there is a activity within the Eagle developments. Yeah, that's why it's showing as activity count 1. Because if you remember, that activity that we created is still within. Yeah. Okay. So we come back to group and sort. We click on it, and remember, because we're showing summaries only, we'll remove the summaries only. Click on apply, and that activity that we were talking about is back. But the activity was under Eagle developments. Okay. Now what we will do is just drag this to the right for a second. and it shows you all of the columns within that particular view that we selected. Okay, and majority of these you don't necessarily need. So in order to remove these, so it can show the relevant columns, you right click just on the column area here, this gray area at the top where it shows activity IDs, step counts, etc. Right click it, scroll down to columns, click on columns, and as we said, the available options and the selected options that are on view currently to us. And then we configure it. We need the activity ID. Do we need the step count? No, we remove it. Do we need the auto compute actuals activity counts? No, we remove those. Okay, do we need the critical? No, we remove that. Activity name, the most relevant, activity ID, activity name, original duration, remaining duration, schedule percent complete, you don't necessarily need right now because you're still in the building stage of the program. Okay, so you remove that. You have your start, you have your finish. Ideally, I'd like to have my start and finish straight after the activity name. So I will configure it so it shows like that. Do we need the total float? Maybe, maybe not. But to save space, we can remove it for now. Okay, and we click apply, and there you have it. It shortens all of the columns on display within the spreadsheet. We click OK, and then we can drag back our Gantt chart to the right. Okay, and as you can see here, we've got April 2018. What we want to do is make sure, rather than scrolling all the way, we just right click in the Gantt chart area so we can go through the configuration for that. And we come to the timescales, we select the timescales, and it brings up the timescale windows. And from here you can, set up what you have showing from a timescale perspective in your Gantt chart area. Okay, so we show ordinal dates, ordinal start, project start, yes. And when is the project start? Earliest project start date. We click on yes, and then we apply, and it scrolls straight to the very first activity, rather than us scrolling all the way to 2018. But as you noticed here, it hasn't got the column for the 2018, so we go back to the time scale. As you can see, ordinal date month, and what the issue is we've selected, but we don't have two lines. We don't have 3 lines, we have 2 lines. What that means is you only have the line showing the month and the day. Now we wanted to show the year as well, so we select 3 lines, we click on apply, and there you have it. We have 3 lines up top. So I'll move this to the side, click apply, click OK, and we drag it. Right now you still can see that it doesn't have the years showing. So we go back to it again, click on timescale, and you just finish all of that. From this particular location here, you click on show primary dates, the date type, calendar, of course, the date intervals, month and week. Click on apply, and there you have it. Month, week, and the date itself. Okay, now we want this here to show the we wanted to show the year that we're in. Okay, so in order to do that, timescale, project start, do not bother with that. You scroll down here, we want the year, so we'll click on that. We scroll back up, we want the year and month to be the very first. Okay, we click on year and month, click on apply, and there you have it. Year and month, and then the day, the weeks. Okay, so these are the weeks here, year and month, and then ordinal interval. If you wanted to change that, you could put it to week, click apply, and it shows you the week. If you wanted it to be the day, you click on day, click on apply, and it shows you the day in April. Okay, so the choice is yours. Ideally, you want to work in weeks or you want to work in days, it doesn't matter. Whichever one suits you, you just click configure and click apply. Alright, so what we'll do, we work in days. Okay, so if you scroll, you can see that it has all of the days within April. Okay, so scroll it to the side, and that's when it starts. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th week, 5th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and then in May. So it tells you right there, this is the 16th, the project start, first week for project start. Okay, so we want it as the date, so we want the actual date itself. Okay, so we don't want the day, You want the actual week. Let's click on that. Alright, so it runs through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So week 7, week 8, week 9. Alright, and then we go to year and month. So we could go year, month, and day. Or what we want to do is, I think probably, let's go for a month. Let's see. So the month of August, 5th, 6th. Weekday. Yeah, we have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the way April 22 to April 29. Okay, so click on this and click the date. Just click it to shift to show what you want, basically. So you can say week. Let's leave it on week. Okay, so we've got it on week. You can click on that again if you wanted go to, click on that and it opens it out a bit more. Okay, so we can work with this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it shows the week, so start of week 1. If we wanted, say for instance, earliest date to date or custom dates that you wanted it to show for the ordinals, you just do it by that. Week and day. Click that again, scroll back up. We go for probably month and week. I don't like that. Which do you prefer? So you have it. Click OK, and that's created. Okay, so in here you have the activity window. If you remember from the group and sort, we have the hide if empty. Alright, so we remove that, apply, and then it shows us all of our WBSs. We click OK. And another thing I have to show you as well, you see where it shows the STRs, etc. This basically is the WBS codes, so you don't, basically for identification purposes, so you know where exactly it is that you're going to place your activities. So you can either choose to have them on or have them off. Ideally, to make it look a bit better, I would remove the ID code. So remember, go back to group and sort. You can also access the group and sort from the view. Okay, so you come down here to group and sort, you click on that and it comes up, and what you want is here you can toggle ID title, you click on that, and then it gives you the ID. So WBS STR10101. So this just helps you, the user, know that you're putting the activities when you do create them in the right WBSs. That is all this is there for. Okay, so if we want to just show an example, we click OK, and this new activity, usually the start of any project, you make sure that you put a start milestone. Okay, start project. Alright, now we've clicked on the start project. You've got to remember that this has a default where the activity is created as a default. Now, where do we find all the attributes of this activity? We can't find them anywhere, can we? So what we want to do is show all of the attributes for this activity here. You scroll up to the top ribbon, you look and hover over, and it has the details. You can either access it via this ribbon here, or you access it via the view. Alright, you scroll down if you needed any of the attributes in here, line items, attachments, tables, etc. From here, columns, timescales, you can access them all from here, or you can access them, user preferences, scroll down, you can access all of these, the cut, the paste, the add, stuff to do with editing. Alright, you go to projects, you scroll down, you can see all of the attributes for the project, just like in Power project, where it has all the activity views to the right, but in P6, the equivalent of P6, the activity windows, if you wanted to show to the left command, these are all project attributes or project icons. You can get them in the ribbon under the window, window for project activities, resource assignments, WBSs, which is in essence just the same as this left hand side column. Okay, you go over to enterprise, you scroll down, enterprise project structure if you wanted to view that, tracking, project portfolios, resources, roles, organizational breaks. So this is all of the functionalities to do with the enterprise itself that you preset, and then you assign it to the projects as you build the projects. Okay, so the calendars, which will be the first thing you would always do when you're building any programs, you create your calendar and suit it to whatever the location it is that you're going to be working at or the project is going to be delivered. You suit the calendars to that particular country, say for instance their bank holidays, etc. So we'll run through that. Okay, you go to the tools, you click on the tools, and it has all of the tools in relation to the actual program. When you've built it, these are all the functions that P6 has to either summarize or update your progress on the program, global change to make global changes, i.e. More than one change to a whole program. So basically it would apply to the whole file itself. That's what global change means. So if you wanted to change attributes, I won't go too far deep into it, but I'll explain later on when we've built the program. Then we'll use the global change functionality. Alright, then you come to the tools. We've just done tools. You go to admin, where you can obviously switch through admin preferences, admin categories. So if we go to admin preferences now, from here you can see all the icons where you can set up how the actual spreadsheet or the Gantt charts obviously look in terms of the decimal places, the data limits, start day of the week. We start the day of the week on Sunday. Activity durations, we specify what the default activity duration will be, or the password policy. You don't really need to mess with this anyway, but data limits, so this will give you the amount of characters that you can enter for all of these. So the enterprise project structure, WBS true maximum levels, organizational breakdown true maximum levels. So this is where you preset all of this. Go to the ID lengths, the same thing. Go to time periods. From here you can set the default time periods for any of your projects. Okay, use assign calendar to specify the number works for each time period, which is this here, which means 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 172 hours per month, and 2,000 hours per year. And this here you can set the time abbreviations in minutes. There you have hours and you have days. So this minutes should be M, a small m. The weeks, time periods, abbreviations must be unique. Sorry. Okay, so we'll make that n. It's already done that for us. Then the earned value. We haven't discussed earned value yet, but this is where you set up all the earned value default configurations. For your reports, the first set, second set, third set, the headers, you can define all the headers, or you put the footer header label, you do it as SSJ project solutions. Alright, you go to the options, you could do it by calendar, select summarization periods, weekly, monthly. So basically if you set these here, what P6 can do is summarize all of your project information either weekly or monthly. So you can set a default when you want it to keep doing it, or you can summarize it by financial period, rate types, all the cost per rate, the standard rate, cost per quantities, standard rates, etc. You can define them all from here, and then the industry that you're working with, engineering and construction, and then we close. Okay. Alright, so we've dealt with that. Now what we want to do, as we said, is we've just created the first activity, which is start project. Usually you do a start project and then you come down to the closeout and handover phase, and you right click over the closeout handover phase and press add. So you can either create the activities from doing the right click button, which is the most important function that you would use within P6. You right click and it brings up this window where you can do all of these things to the activity. So it says activity details, we've got none. We've just clicked on that now and it's brought us the activity detail window. right? So if we clicked on this activity, within this activity detail window, we can see all of the functions or all of the attributes that this activity has. Clearly, it has no attributes because we've just created it. Now, within all of these ribbons at the top, this gives you information about this activity, from the activity type to the duration type, the percent complete type. Basically, what the percent complete means is that when you're progressing through the project, you can either assign a duration percent complete to the activity, which means that if the activity itself is a duration performance measured activity, you assign a duration to it. Or if it's a physical, saying, basically the understanding is the duration percent complete means if an activity takes 5 days to complete, right? For instance, cure concrete, that takes a day to cure concrete. So it is a duration percent complete type activity, meaning after a day the concrete's cured. Say for instance now manufacturing a PlayStation takes 5 days, right? By the 5th day the PlayStation's manufactured, right? So we expect that by the 5th day it will be manufactured. If we then had to break it down into its proper components, which means the creation of the PlayStation requires that you make the cage or the carcass of the PlayStation, then you make the motherboard, you make all of these different activities. You will leave it as physical percent complete. So meaning that the moment the carcass is completed, which carries maybe 10% of the progress, you can then highlight when you're progressing your the activity that 10% of it is done as soon as the carcass is done. So if the carcass was that, would say the carcass, right? Yeah, then units, if it's unit percent complete, say for instance 100 meters squared per day, you'll assign units per however long it takes. So a standard rate will be the amount of work over the amount of time, and then the SI unit. So say for instance 300 square meters per day, you leave it as a unit, but usually we'll leave it as a duration. Okay. All right.
So generally, do you have some leeway in customizing the program? So do your programs usually need to adhere to the organization that you're working for, or do you have some leeway in how you how much of the program's customized to the way you like to see it? So for example, the colors, the duration.
Yeah, it's down to the user. It's a user experience. So down to how you work best. The idea is, in terms of the best practice, the company will have its own set standards and procedures that you just have to follow from a quality perspective. Making sure that you build it to the right requirements for the organization or the business sub-function units requirements for projects. So the general. So the finished product needs to conform. But in terms of building the product, say for instance, they say every activity has to have a predecessor, successor. That is basic industry practice anyway. Do you understand? Making sure that all the activities have names, ID codes, logic links, etc. All of that is company standard, but also best practice. So it's just making sure that from a quality perspective, you make sure that you follow exactly as it is within the company, and also your best practice through your professional endeavors. Okay. So we've looked at all of these functionalities here. This just gives us an idea of all of the attributes for this particular activity, which here we can see it says activity type task dependent, but we said that the first creation within a program has to be a start milestone. Now with start milestones, usually it would only have a start date. Why? Because it's not an actual activity. It's just an important date by which a particular endeavor, activity or task has to have been performed. So it could be a process, it could be a cycle, it could be anything that requires importance. It represents a key date or a key milestone by which something needs to have been done. So if we say start project by the 16th, we're literally identifying that at the 16th of April 2018, this project has to start. All right. So we come here and we alter the activity type, and P6 has 6 different activity types. The most important activity types that you will use are the finish milestone, the start milestone, the task dependent. Task dependent basically means that you want the activity to follow logic, right? So it has a dependency on its predecessor and its successor. Okay. If it was a resource dependent activity, that means When you've created the activity, you then have to create resources and assign that activity to that particular resource. Now, the progress of that activity will only be based on resources. Whereas, if it was a task dependent, the progress of that activity will be based on what? On its predecessor task. So if its predecessor, if you remember the forward pass, backward pass method of the critical path, means that if a activity's early start date was the 15th and its early finish date was a 1-day duration, which was the 16th, the successor activity, if it's a finish to start relationship, will be what? The successor activity, if it was a finish to start relationship, will be that it will start on the 17th, right? So that is a task dependent activity. So if during the execution you finish that predecessor activity on the 16th, that means that the successor activity can start. All right. But if it was a resource dependent activity, if that resource was not assigned to that activity and that resource wasn't available, that means you can't progress the successor activity without that resource obviously completing the work. Okay. So that's the idea behind the activity types. But usually, for clarity, just select the task dependent if it's a task dependent activity. Usually the default is task dependent. Okay, but in this case, we want a start milestone. So we select start milestone, and with start milestone, if you notice, it has no duration type, duration percent complete. It has a working day activity calendar assigned to it, primary resource, EC, responsible manager. It just gives you all the attributes of the actual activity. Now, we'll start from general right the way through to summary. Okay, general, you move to status. What is the status of this activity? The duration window here, which shows how long the activity is, which is 0 duration, because a milestone doesn't have a duration. It just has a start date or an end date. If it's a start milestone, start date. If it's an end milestone or finish milestone, it has an end date. All right, so we'll create another type of activity under the pre-construction phase, so we can highlight what we mean by the task dependent, resource dependent, etc. Okay, the reason why I'm taking time out to create all of this for you guys is so you understand all of the functionality, all the science behind the actual activities, how they drive. It sounds complicated, but it isn't. From you understand the basic concept, it gives you a better understanding. You grasp it, you're able to build programs, understanding that there is a science behind everything that you do within the program. The program is a set of ones and zeros. All right, so if you define what it is that you want it to be, it will always be that. But then if there is a dependency that requires it to be a 0 or 1, and you don't define it as a 0 or 1 as requested, it will give you a different outcome. Okay, so we've created a new activity, and this activity will be project, or should we call it contracted submit tender. Okay, all right, so that submit tender should also be a milestone because it's a particular date by which we have to submit something. So we come back to the general status and we look at the activity type, we change it to a start milestone. Okay, and that will be the 16th. all right, so we click on that as well. We click and we put another activity. As you can see, the activity IDs are being created automatically for you, but you can change these, you can alter it. I'll show you how to do that. So we created a new activity up here, and this new activity we will call it or contractor selection with intent. Okay. Now, as you can see, it's rearranging it as I'm creating the activities. Now, if you want to rearrange it, you come over to the activity ID column. You left click it, and it basically sorts it in ascending order, because the arrow here is pointing downwards, which means what? In ascending order. If you click it again, in descending order. Okay, so arrow up means descending order for these activities. Then if you click it, you see it just interchanges it. All right, so it moves that, so it's in descending order: A110, A100, A1020. Okay, so contractor selection with letter of intent. That there will be a milestone as well, not an activity, because it's an important date by which they would have returned the letter of intent. So you change it again into a start milestone. Okay, then you click on it again, create another activity. As soon as that's created, alright, we call this activity contractor selection, then we'll project kick off meeting. Alright, project kickoff meeting, that'll be a milestone because it's an important date. So you could put project kickoff meeting probably one day or a milestone as well. Okay, start milestone, because these are all important key dates in the pre-construction phase. Now what I want to do is I want to remove all of these. Alright, so I'll go back to my group and sort on the top ribbon. Right, group and sort, it just basically shows you the squares going bigger to smaller. That's all it needs, group and sort. So the icon just shows you that. So what I want to do is remove the title. I'm going to remove the ID code, and I click apply, and I have just the WBSs, okay, which is how I like to view it. Alright, so I have just the WBSs. Now, as you can see, all these different colors may just be a bit too much for you. So ideally what I want to go back to my view that I enjoy using. I click on the view ribbon up top, and I scroll back to open layout. Would you like to save changes to this layout? I'll say yes. Alright, and then I scroll down to my preset view that I like. Okay, I click on that, user admin, I click on apply, and it brings me straight back. It's nice, it's clean, the colors are not clashing, and I open, and there you have it. So we've created activities within the pre-construction phase. Alright, we click on the plus button, it opens up all of the activities that we're creating, as you can see. Okay, and it opens out all of the WBSs, as you can see. It's clean, it's fresh, we can, just work without all the distracting colors. Alright, so project kickoff meeting, then we also click and we have an activity called contract administration will be the next activity as soon as it clicks through. So we call this contract. What is that? Contract administration. So basically, as soon as you receive the letter of intent, they send you over the contract for the actual project, and the contract administration basically means the contract goes through governance. You read through all of the clauses, making sure obviously you look through for risks. You look at the wordings of the actual contract. Is it favored towards the client, or is it favored towards a 50-50 share of the risk? Have they input in there any contractual clauses that are outside of the remit that you as a principal contractor are willing to accept? They might be obviously wording all of the contract clauses to transfer the risks over to you for design, or transfer the risks for the building. A big example would be, for instance, you win a contract and it says that you carry the design responsibility for the building whilst you are in possession of the building, which is incorrect, because the building is owned by the actual principal contractor. Now, if for instance the building were to collapse whilst you're carrying out construction works, if you had insurance for that, your insurance will cover it, or the contractor's insurance, the client's insurance will cover for that particular incident if it did actually materialize. But if they said in the wording of the contractual documents that you carry that risk, and as a company you look at that risk when you weigh the appetite for the risk of the company, if you're risk averse, immediately during the contract administration phase, your governance people will have a look at it, all the lawyers will have a look at the contract clauses and highlight any of the contract clauses that might scream out huge risk in terms of, say for instance, you identify it and then you quantify the risk as red, green and blue. So you could have like a red review, a green review, or blue review attached to certain contract clauses, and then you then return those contract clauses and highlight them to the client and tell them, look, these clauses, we need to discuss it because we can't carry all that risk. We want to share the risk. We want to reduce, retain, remove, whichever ones, obviously as suited. And if they agree, remember it's an offer and acceptance. If they've done the offer and acceptance when they sent you the contract, you then return the offer acceptance, and you guys then delegate how much of it obviously you want to return or reduce the risk back to the client. Okay, all right. So that's literally how it runs. So what we'll do is contract administration. We've done that. So start project, submit tender, contractor selection with letter of intent, project kickoff meeting, contractual administration. Okay.
Sorry, why do you have that as a milestone?
We have them because these are just all important dates. But this particular activity here, the contractual administration, takes a week, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, right? So we've just created it. It's a default as one day. If you remember from the admin admin preferences, sure, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. As you can see, activity duration, specify the duration of new activity, default 1. Okay. So now we come here, original duration, remaining duration. Once you change the original duration to, let's just say, contractual administration 2 weeks, all right, and that automatically gives you 10 days. Okay, all right. So for now, we'll create these 4 activities in design and engineering. Usually in design, you select who? Design consultants. All right. So yeah, within the design phase, you select all the design consultants, i.e. the architects, the structural engineers, the M&E engineers, the civils engineers. All of those individuals will be selected at the initiation phase for the design phase, basically. So you select, appoint and select
design team.
Yeah. So create another activity. It is a bit slow, this P6, but it literally gives you stops and checks to make sure that everything's done properly. So points. Right, so for clarity, obviously we won't go too far deep. So point architects, point structural engineers. What we then do is develop concept of feasibility. So obviously if we were going to follow the REBA stages, we'll then obviously input the different processes that these guys will go through. So REBA stage 0, which is the concept of feasibility, or basically the stage 0 is the business case. Then stage 1 is the concept feasibility. Then stage 2 is the schematics. Basically it's the schematics. So for tender drawings, then it goes from tender A, tender B, tender C, like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, like that. And then stage 4A, 4B, which will be for construction. 3 is technical, yes. So we come through concept feasibility is 2, then technical is 3, and then 4 is for construction, which is tender stage. Okay, so appoint structural engineers, appoint M&E. Okay, so we've done all of that, and all these will be milestones. So this here, you just take the amount of time it will take you to appoint these guys. So appoint and select design team consultants will be activity type will be a milestone.
So what we're going to focus on will be the dates, the dates that we appoint these guys,
yes.
not the time that will take for the process.
All we'll do is the essence is we'll assign all those attributes. So what we're doing now, if you remember through the different phases of the project lifecycle, when you're in the definition phase, we're in the definition phase now. We haven't gone to the scheduling yet. So we've done defining the activities, and then we schedule the activities based on the dates. Scheduling is just basically attaching dates and resources to the actual activities. Okay, so we've assigned obviously this activity. We then put the duration, appoint architects. It will take us a week to appoint architects. It's a task dependent activity. So we put a week, which is 1 week. It goes 5 days. Then appoint structural engineers, the same thing. So ideally what you could do is either enter it, if they're going to take the same time, you could either enter it, or you can select the 5 days, hold down shift, scroll down to the last one, appoint M&E guys. It will take the same amount of time. This is hypothetical. You click it, and then you right click and you go to fill down, which means it will fill all the attributes within the first highlighted box, and everything is now filled out as 5 days. So that's a simple way. If all of the durations are the same, or anything that you want to fill down that is the same, you just click on it and you right click, fill down, and it will populate all of those to the same. Remember to highlight the main box that you want it to fill down to. Okay, it's just like Excel. All right, so we've highlighted all of these now. So what we'll do, we'll stop here, and then we'll now assign relationships to all of these activities. Okay, so we know that submit tender, start project. As you can tell, if we look through on the Gantt chart, we're still in 2017 with 2018. So you look over the Gantt chart, you can see all the activities that we've created. Now what we want to do is put predecessor successors. Okay, now if you come back down to the activity window here, where it has all the activity details, look on all of these tabs all the way. You highlight predecessors. Remember, every activity has to have a predecessor and a successor. There are two options you can use. You can either bring out the activities predecessor successor columns within the spreadsheet here. So I'll show you all the options. You can either bring it out here, you right click, you scroll down to columns to bring out the columns. As we said, we want to view everything. So we click on available options, go to group and sort, we list them, and we bring out what? The predecessors, LMNOP. Alright, LMNOP, predecessors right out there. Double click, and then we go to successors as well. We scroll down to S, we stop, go to successors, and there we are. Alright, so remember, this is the options that will now show within our activity spreadsheet column window. Alright, so we just want to scroll it down so it goes to the bottom. We click on predecessors, scroll down to the bottom, click on apply, and then click on OK. So as we've applied, you will see, just move this box down, you'll see that it's given us that option there of the columns. We click OK. So the predecessor successors. So now you could either do it from this bit here now, or you could do it from the activity details window. Okay, so we'll choose to do it here for one activity. We click on that towards the end. So all you do is just click towards the far, sorry about that. All you do is just click on this bit. So let's close it. On the predecessors, just open it a little bit. Alright, let's reduce the size of this a little bit. Alright, we extend it. Predecessors, you just click to the far right. If you click to the far left, it will come up. If you click to the far right, it will come up. Alright, so it says where you would assign. So within this window, you'll assign the predecessors. Alright, so we know that we're highlighted on start project. That's the activity that we want to assign. Should it have a predecessor? It can't, because it's the first activity within the program, which is a start milestone. So it is the first activity within the program. If you remember your arrow diagram methods, the forward pass, backward pass, there is always a first activity within your sequence. Alright, so we close that. We go to successor. Now we click on successor and it brings up all of these activities. Here we just select obviously what the successor to start project is, which is what? Submit tender. We click on that, we add it. So you can either choose to do it there, and then what you can then do is close this window, and you see that it's assigned the successor. Right. Now, if you come down to this activity detail window, if we were to do it from this window here, you can view what the attribute of this activity is from this window. As I said, predecessor, successors. You see, we clicked on successors and it shows us submit tender is the successor, and it tells you all about the successor activity itself within this window. It tells you the project ID for the successor activity, the WBS code for the for the successor activity, and the activity ID for the successor activity. So when you're tracing the logic of the program, you can use this view where you can see this activity and its successor's details, or the predecessor, which we have none, right? And then you can also, within this bit here, bring out more options for the ribbons to see more information about the successor by right clicking, and then it will say customize successor columns. You click on this bit here because this is the ribbon where you want to show it. So click on wherever it is that you have the options to view more details about that successor activity, customize, and it brings up all of the available options that you can view and the selected options. As said before, it's columns. Understand the columns within P6. That's the most important thing. Once you understand the columns, everything else becomes easy. Okay, just the same way we did it up here. These columns here, if we wanted to add or remove columns, we right click over one particular column and it will bring up the option to select available or select options that you have customized already. So in here we come back to available options and we open it out to list everything. We want to see driving because the predecessor successors, right? We want to know what activities are driving, so we'll always put the driving in there. It's very essential. It's one of the most important things you can have showing as an attribute for any activity. We want to see the start date, end date. As you can see, it's not there. We'll put finish and we go to start. Alright, so we don't want to know we want to know activity status not started. We want to know primary resource. We don't need it yet because we haven't assigned any resources. Do we want to know activity WBS? Yes, you do. Do you want to know project ID? Well, we open inside the one project anyway, but if you have two projects open in the spreadsheet window, you might want to have this out. So we'll remove that activity and then we'll click apply, and as you can see, it's populated all the other activities in there. So we click apply, we click OK, and then here we have it. So we can see it's not started, we can see the start date, we can see the finish date. Alright, so what we want to do, you can shift all of these ribbons, yeah, by just simply clicking on them and just scroll, left click the mouse, leave your hand on it and scroll to the left, and it moves it to the left. Right, if we wanted to move activity status all the way, left click, leave your hand on it and release it where you want it to be. As soon as you do that, it does that. It puts it where exactly you want it to be. So we'll return it back to there. Alright, and literally that's how you follow through the functionality here. So what we're doing now is building the activity relationships. Okay, so we've said submit tender, its predecessor. Obviously, if you come back down, we've clicked on submit tender. We want to see all the attributes that submit tender has. Alright, from this window here, its predecessor. We want to find out information about this predecessor. It gives us all the information. But if you remember, predecessor is not showing the start date, end dates. You have to configure for every one of the windows what you want the window to show. Okay, so successors, we have all that info on the columns within successors. For predecessors, we don't. So we do the exact same exercise. We click on customize, we go to available options, we list, and then we put the start and finish dates and the driving. Right, start and finish dates, driving, WBS. Yep, we remove primary resource. We want to know lags, yes. Relationship types, yes. Activity name, activity ID, these should be up top. Activity name up top. Start date, finish date, I usually have them up top. Driving, WBS, relationship type, lag, activity status. Then you click apply, or before we click apply, let's just move this window up so you can see as soon as it's done. And it populates everything there. As you can see, you click OK. So now we have the same icons or the same tabs open within the detail window, between predecessors, successors. You see, it's got everything the same, because those are what we will need in terms of the information for the activity that we're looking at. Okay, so here also you can view the status of the actual activity, which means status, i.e. where we are now. What are the attributes that the activity has, status wise? Duration, it gives you all the duration, the original duration of the activity, which is 0, as you can see there. The remaining duration, let me extend this column. The remaining duration, which is 0, it gives you there. Then the actual basically means the moment you start to progress the activity, it starts to accrue actuals, which means the actual amount of work that has been done in terms of duration. So say for instance by day 2, you had done 2 days of work. The actual will now be 2 days, right? So P6, the software will then automatically calculate using the critical path method. If you have an activity that's maybe 5 days or 10 days, for instance, let's click on this activity, and by the second day you've done 2 days of work, the remaining duration will be what? 8 days, because it's the full duration minus the amount of actuals that you've done, which will give you amount of work over the duration, right? Yeah, the difference with that. And then here you can also look at the status. From the status, this is where when you start progressing your project, you can, basically configure how much progress has actually happened. But we're still at the stage where we're building the program, so all of this won't be relevant until you start to progress it. In this window here, you have the labor units, which basically is the budgeted labor units 0 days, actual labor units 0 days. If you look, this and this are sort of the same windows, but this is as per duration, this is as per labor units. Now you can select from this tab here whether you want to view it in terms of labor units, if the activity has resources assigned to it as there are 3 types of labor unit resources. There's labor resource, there's non-labor resource, and then there's material resource. So from this little window here, you can view non-labor units if it was a non-labor resource assigned to it. Labor cost, as you can tell, there's no cost assigned to it. So this here will be driven by the resources that are attached to this particular activity, whereas this here will be driven by the dates. So if you remember, scheduling is about assigning dates and resources. So when you get to the scheduling, that's when the status bar would then become relevant. Okay?
What is the difference between a non-labor resource and the material resource?
A non-labor resource could quite easily be, say for instance, a computer. Yeah? A material resource is material. So it's material that will be used over a period of time. Okay, so a non-labor resource could be an excavator. A material resource could be a bag of cement. Okay, that's the difference. Alright, so what we will do is we'll finish building the sequence of these activities. I just wanted to talk you guys through these different ribbons that you can see that gives you information about the actual activity, but because we haven't assigned anything to these activities, there isn't any information to show. The moment we start to assign, it would then start to show us information. Now if you go to codes, it will show you all of the codes assigned, all the activity codes, code values, and the descriptions. The notebooks, here you can put notes about the activity by selecting. You come to notebook topic, you put a topic in there, and it comes up with a series of default topics that you can add. So you scroll down, you can see it says activity comments, general comments, constraints. If you have any constraints associated with that particular activity, you come here, you select it, or an explanation about why the activity hasn't started or finished, or there have been change requests submitted and you have to go through a change controls process on the activity, so that if you enter as much information, say for instance now you went off sick or you left the company, somebody else new to the project can come in and understand all of the issues associated with that particular activity, because they would have put notes. And it is best practice to actually put notes on activities to give you a general view of what has taken place prior and what proposed might happen in terms of risks, resource brokering. Does this activity require you obviously scheduling or optimizing the resources to work between this activity and another activity? You see, so it's a lot. It's very detailed, but you only assign what is required. You see, but it gives you so many different options. All right, so say for instance now we just go and put an explanation on this one. We press the plus and it would add a topic. So the topic for this activity will be an explanation. So contract administration, we could put some notes in there as to why, the issues that we have with the contracts, etc., etc. Okay, so we click that and it gives us the notebook topic, contract explanation. Then we close. Now we can modify it because we've now got a topic. So under that topic, we come into this window here, we click on modify, and it gives us this full window here where we could type and say this contract contains clauses which the legal department have to pay special attention to retention costs associated with the design phase or tender phase. This is just hypothetical. Alright, so we click on it, we click OK, and there it is. So based on this activity here, if you wanted to see if it had any notes, we click on this activity, we've got no notes. We click on this one, you've come in on the project, you're brand new, you click through, you want to understand the program itself, whoever it is that built it prior, did they obviously go through best practice and put information in there for anybody who comes in and sits through. Alright, so we come here, we see this contract clauses, the contract contains. So obviously immediately we know that during the contract phase there were some issues. So this program literally allows you, this software allows you to literally just grab a hold and put as much information within it that relates to all the different sub-functions. So the more defined the actual program is, the more robust, the more clarity, the more information you will have pertaining to the project within this program. So you can manage everything from within P6 to the amount of detail that you're required if you choose to do. The idea is if you use it for its functionality, it's vast. Alright, so on that note, we will end the presentation, and we will subsequently in the part 2 go through creating all of the dependencies, assigning resources, costs, etc., and showing you how to do that, what the relations to all of these ribbons up top, all the commands, the relationships, the windows, etc. actually mean. Okay, and how they impact how you view the spreadsheet, how you view the Gantt charts, and all of these columns one by one. We'll go through them and assign. We'll take our time out to literally just run you through all the functionality, and then go into As the Power projects and try and do the same thing and see what sort of difficulties we run into. Okay, thank you very much guys for viewing the presentation, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back with part 2, explaining the differences between P6 and Asta, and also developing programs in both, and basically highlighting from a planner's perspective, which software tool actually does a particular function better than the other. Thank you very much and have a great day. Cheers.